us, lir.com, 927lir.com, and YouTube. I am John Kalaboukas, the Bouk, with my friend Paul Zubulake, Zoobie. So we went to that game, the Ranger game, the turning point, game 5. And unfortunately, we saw a better team beat the Rangers.
Yeah, the last time we spoke, the Rangers were up 2-1, John. So for everybody who watches our show, we appreciate it. They have not won. They did not win after we spoke last. So we knew they were in trouble. We said they were in trouble, but to actually lose 3 in a row, a huge disappointment. And then a little bit on the aftermath of the season, where Jacob Trouba has admitted that he had a fractured ankle, and then supposedly Ryan Lindgren had like a fractured rib. The way these guys played, maybe it would have been better off them not playing and have somebody who was 100% healthy on the ice. So the Rangers defense struggled mightily against the superior team, like you mentioned, the Panthers, who are a big physical, tough team, who actually won. I'm sorry, they won the President Trophy a few years ago and lost in the playoffs, and actually decided to change the makeup of their roster after that, and 3 years later are back in the Cup Finals. So the Rangers are going to really have to take a really long, tough look at their roster, and they have some free agents. Lindgren's one of them. Is it worth bringing him back? Can they find somebody for Jacob Trouba? Mika Zibanejad, the same thing. And they have to kind of just, in my opinion, just go with some of the youth that they have and move forward with a great goaltender and some good players and some good guys in the farm system that can help them. And I think they're just going to have to make it a tough decision, and that it's going to be a problem because Panarin, I didn't mention, they're going to be tough to move, but they have to make changes. These guys are just not playoff players.
And not only that, I mean, we saw the difference in size too. I mean, the Panthers are so much of a larger team, and we look like a bunch of peanuts next to them.
Well,
Seriously, I mean, when you look at it, we were peanuts next to
well,
them.
yeah, well, top to bottom, right? I mean, the Rangers have some tall guys, right? Miller and Trouba.
Yeah,
They didn't play that
yeah.
great. Adam Fox, he didn't want to blame the injury that happened. He looked terrible, but
Mhm.
John, but Fox included, Panarin, Zibanejad. These guys are made for regular season hockey, where if you get into overtime, it becomes a skills competition. And with the 3-on-3 and the shootout, very deceiving because the Rangers were actually really good in overtime, a very good power play team, and the power play disappeared. They actually played better shorthanded than on the power play, and almost
Yep.
played better shorthanded than 5-on-5. It's almost really hard to believe. So a massive disappointment, John. I have to tell you. And I saw somebody online say something so funny where he said, "Imagine being a Nick Ranger Jet fan," and he's not a Met fan. The guy's a Yankee fan. And
Oh,
I was like, I reacted by saying, "Can you imagine being a Met fan?" So, John, this is wearing on the old man over here. The nonstop losing, and it's tough. It's tough to deal with. I got to tell you.
well, they had something in the newspaper which I thought was very interesting. So if you combine all the New York teams, and we'll put the Nets in there, it's 100 years combined without a championship. 100. So if you go through all the teams, you
And
have
that
the
includes the
Jets.
Yankees, right? Obviously, because the
Yes,
Yankees
that includes the
won.
Yankees and the Giants.
Right.
If you take those guys out, forget it. Forget it. It would be the bicentennial. Um, so you have the Jets 55 years, Knicks 51 years, Nets 47 years, Islanders 41 years, Mets 37 years, Rangers, as we know, 30 years, Yankees 14, Giants 12. Wow. When I read that, I'm like, you. I was like, what the hell, man? I mean, when you look at the Jets and the Knicks, oh, what are we doing, man? What
You
are
know,
we doing?
John, the old saying, if you can make it in New York, right, you can make it anywhere, that old tagline. Well, can anybody make it in New York when it comes to their sports teams? Make it all the way. I mean, this is really, and I don't want to be like a downer here, but it is wears on you, right? And we were at Game 5, and I have to another story from this is that I do listen to some other pods, and somebody, I won't say who, but he actually made a comment about the crowd. So I had made my own comments about the crowd
Right.
before I actually went to a game. And I have to tell you, I have to kind of forgive the Ranger fans who attend the games, because the game that we were at, the crowd was into it. There
Yes, it
were
was.
real fans in the building.
Yes, they were.
And when they scored their, we'll say, lone goal, we're not going to count the goal at the end. It was so loud in there, but the Rangers team just didn't give the fan base enough to rally around. There were a lot of "Let's Go Ranger" chants started. The team in themselves just could not sustain any sort of pressure. So it's just a tough one again, as I keep on saying. But this team is just doesn't have the physicality and the grit. And I think they're just, some of these guys are just too nice of guys. And they refused to muck it up with the Panthers. There was
Yeah,
never any hatred in this series whatsoever. There was like
and they
this
weren't
level
hitting
of
them.
respect,
They
right?
weren't hitting them. They weren't knocking them against the boards. Nothing.
Well, the Rangers, yeah, they don't play that game. And the
No, I
one
know,
guy
but
that,
at least try. At least show something.
a few guys hit on the team, and poor Matt Rempe, who they put him, they dress him, but they don't play him. And he actually, I thought his shifts were decent. The game that we
Yes, they
went
were.
to, Johnny, he played 3 minutes.
Yeah, yeah,
Ridiculous. You're
yeah.
dressing a guy, you're not using him, and Lavalette is so afraid he's going to pick up a penalty, because he's a little awkward because he's so tall, where the refs are always looking for him and trying to give him a penalty. But he coached in fear. And I didn't even expect this Ranger team to do a lot this year. So how can I be disappointed in the season, because they had such a great season? So I just don't know where they're going to go. They're going to have to make changes. They cannot roll out the same core, man. They cannot do it. They have to do they have to make some drastic moves, and they have to see where the value of their players around the leagues. And that includes a guy like Adam Fox. I know people don't want to hear it, but the way he plays in the playoffs, maybe he should be a guy that they could look to trade, because he
Hmm.
could bring a lot back in return. So they're going
Yeah.
to have to be a little dramatic, because again, they can't run it back with the same guys. Can't do it.
And there's many free agents, and I saw. Sorry, I didn't write down their names, but from the Panthers that we could definitely use.
Well, they've got Paul Reinhardt. He's number one. Bring him in.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
problem with the Rangers is, John, because the NHL has a hard cap, and the
Yes,
Rangers
they do.
are up against it. So they have to be creative and try to move some guys with big salaries. And I mean, Jacob Trouba is the number one guy. They have to try to move on. I know he's a good leader and he's well respected, but his game is just not there. Now, again, if he's hurt because of his ankle, then he shouldn't be out there. He
I
should
agree.
not be out there. So just a huge disappointment. So the Knicks had disappointment, but we know that was based on injury. The Rangers have no one to blame but themselves. It's based on performance and getting beat by a better team. Poor Igor. I mean, the guy was incredible. And even the game we win at, Schneider like screened them, and it's like, guy, if you can't block it, get the heck out of the way.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was brutal. Game 5, we were there, but the fans were not the reason. The fans were into it, and it's just, I guess maybe it's that 100 years of losing of New York fans. They're always thinking the worst. So how can you blame them?
Yeah, 100, can you believe 100 years? But the other thing in that series, and I pointed it out, and we spoke about it, really dumb penalties. Dumb. Some of them just absolutely stupid, lazy. I mean, some of it is just pure laziness, and in others, they, what are you going to do? Have a breakaway, or you go for the penalty? But just overall, some dumb hockey on the
No,
part of the
hey,
Rangers.
they deserve their fate. They, I didn't pick them to win it, and I know our good friend Steve. What did Steve say, John? Let's get Steve's last comments to the Rangers. What did he have a reaction? Have you spoken to him on it?
Well,
Or
he did say, I mean, from the beginning with his prediction that the Rangers, could easily get beaten in this series.
sure.
And, he was disappointed because I was able to get the, Stanley Cup tickets, which are now which I'm going to wait about a month and a half to get the refund for. Um, but yeah, no, he was disappointed, but it was not a shock to him. Let's put it that way.
Right. Well,
Wasn't
it
a
was
shock.
definitely not a shock, but he thought they would win the cup. So there was something there. Maybe it was just a hometown bias, but he had a thought that they would win. The finals actually should be good. I don't know how much I'm going to watch of Edmonton and Florida. I believe they start on the weekend. Who knows with these breaks in between? Because I thought when the funniest thing ever, I keep on looking every night. Not that I really want to watch. Like, oh, when are the Celtics playing the Mavericks? When is the NBA starting? And we're taping on Wednesday evening, and it's tomorrow. I mean, how many?
Tomorrow,
When did those series end? When was it?
over a week ago.
It's going on.
I wish they'd give that break for the first round so the Knicks could have healed or something. I mean, wow.
People just they forget about it. They lose interest. They really do. I just find it amazing. Like there's such a break in between. Not that I want to segue to the NBA because I
Well, who are
mean,
you going to pick for the NHL?
oh,
I'm
I'm
taking
going
the
to go with Florida.
Panthers.
I'm going to go with
Yeah, me
Florida.
too. Yeah, me too.
But
They, they
I
were
mean,
impressive.
Edmonton's got the best player. There's no doubt. McDavid, the guy is incredible. The guy is so good. But yeah, Florida, I just think is they're destined. They came close last year. They're tough. Barkov's a great player. That guy is a
Yeah,
great player.
yeah.
Reinhardt, as I mentioned earlier, and Tkachuk is a they've got a good balance of play. And like you said, overall size, a lot of Forsling on defense, very underrated guys. Right? There's a lot of underrated players, not really that well known to the public, but obviously to the hockey public, they're surely well known. So yeah, hockey's over, John, in New York. Basketball's over. We could talk about OTA success. I mean, talk about. I can't even tell you about how boring it is to even like read about this stuff. And it's good for comedy if you want something to laugh at. Just go on any of the Jets um, their own Twitter accounts or X accounts, I should say. And this constant stuff about Aaron Rodgers looking good in shorts and a t-shirt. I mean, what are they selling? Come on, right? I mean, the bigger stories is that Hassan Reddick is not showing up. And I told Hassan a few weeks ago on our show that he's not getting a new contract. So that is something to watch. The mandatory mini camp is coming up for the Jets. And will he show up? Unlike a few guys in the NFL who have had earlier mini camps, right? CD
Yeah.
Lamb and Brandon Ayuk are not showing up to the mini camp, so they're actually getting fined. So there's definitely going to be some NFL drama, which I think will get everybody excited a little bit, a little bit.
Well, Reddick actually, because there was something in his contract that if he showed up for these OTAs right now, he would
Yeah,
have gotten a $250,000 bonus. Why would you walk away from $250,000 for just showing up in your short? What is he expected to do? That was, I mean, you look at the normal everyday person, they're saying you're not showing up to do nothing for $250,000.
They don't care,
Incredible,
John. They don't care.
incredible.
So that's a bad sign for the Jets. Robert Saleh's press conference. I don't know where he is. I haven't
Yeah,
spoke to him. When you make these deals, what you would think when they made the deal that that was the understanding that you're going to play out your contract here. And why would that not be a surprise? I don't know what Reddick and his agent is thinking. Joe Douglas is on a 1 year deal right now, and so is Robert Saleh. So they're
true.
not worried about next year. There's just no way they're going to extend them, John. I don't think it's going to happen. And also our buddy Brees Hall's been kind of like lower body injury, or is that like a little bit of I want to get paid too? But the funny thing is, I did learn, John, that technically he's not eligible for an extension until next year, like until
Mm.
I don't know if it's the league's year starts, so he technically can't get extended. So I was wrong about that. I wanted to correct myself. But once the year starts, I believe he can. That's definitely something to watch. A hundred
Yeah.
percent. He's got some sort of injury all of a sudden. So yeah, it's going to be some good drama as always with the Jets.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned about Aaron Rodgers. It's like, yeah, he was 9 for 10 to Garrett Wilson, and the defense was pressuring him. I'm like, what? What is that? What we're going to go on? He was 9 for 10, and
Right.
under a pressure defense. I
That
said,
can't
what
hit
am
him.
what am I reading here? What am I
No,
reading?
it really is just. I mean, last year I get it. It was it was going to be his first year. Everybody's excited. I get it. I was excited to even hear about what was going on in OTAs. But this year, I mean, guy, and it just stop, just stop, and don't tell us how wonderful everything is and how great this team is. Go out and prove it, please. Just everybody, anybody going out there 11, 12 wins is crazy. Okay, great. Say whatever you want. I don't care. Let's just play the games. We got plenty of time before that comes, John. So
Oh, not
I know
that.
I'm jumping
Listen,
all
not
over
that
the
much
place, but
time. It's gonna come
let's go, Sven.
quickly.
Of
It's gonna
course,
come.
of
It's
course.
coming. I mean, listen, it's something to look forward to very soon.
Well, I'm looking forward to preseason for one reason only is the crazy kickoff rule. I can't wait to actually see it in practice and see what's going to happen. So I
Yeah,
think they actually released their schedule for the preseason, the Jets. I believe it was August 10th.
August
So they
10th.
have their 3 games. They're all on Saturdays. And then they also announced their I think they're having 2 joint practices, one with the Giants, and I'm not sure was it the Commanders. I'm not sure. So those are always worthwhile paying attention to. But yeah, so here we are, June 5th, John. The Bouk and Zoobie show, as always, available, youtube.com, Spotify.com, and the world famous LIR and 92.7 LIR.com, right? So we appreciate everybody hanging in there. We get it. It's kind of a slow season. And this might be a good time to mention it, John, that, we're going to be doing a little summer hiatus, right?
Yeah,
Starting after this show, after we post this show. We're going to take some time off. We'll come back if something huge happens. There's no doubt. So
right.
it's not like we're
Right.
leaving the country. But I think, we're looking at August, taking June and July off for a little respite after the Knicks and the Rangers playoff runs were a little tired.
Yeah, yeah. And listen, the only team that is doing well right now, and we'll talk about it later, are the Yankees. We'll talk about it when we speak about baseball. But a couple of things in the NFL. You mentioned Justin Jefferson last week, and
Yeah,
too bad
broke the
it
bank.
broke the bank. 4 years, 140 million, 110 million of it guaranteed. He got himself a fantastic contract, a really good contract.
Good for him. Good for him.
And
Yeah. So I did mention that fantasy that Jet fans had, and So this is some of this. There's so much Jet content. I don't know how people do it. They just talk about the Jets, man. That's got to be rough. We're smart enough to just we talk about them a lot, but we don't make it
Right.
about we're a Jet show. And it's hysteria of like that Joe Douglas was inquiring about Justin Jefferson. Like, who cares? Big deal. What the heck does that mean? What were the Jets going to trade for
Right.
Justin Jefferson? I mean, I
Right.
said it like I told it's just ridiculous. So oh God. Anyway, he's a great player. Good for him. And hopefully now he backs it up because because CD Lamb is like I mentioned earlier, he's the next one, and
Yeah.
he's a tremendous talent too. And this is what happens when one guy gets the big deal, everybody else wants to get paid.
That's
And
right.
when guys like that want to get paid, I don't think Lamb, but I think Brandon Ayuk could definitely be available. So that's the
Mm.
guy that Joe Douglas should be calling about.
Interesting. Interesting. One other thing in the NFL, which was a shocker, Hall of Famer Larry Allen passed away
Yes,
on
terrible
vacation,
news.
and he was only 52 years old. He must have
Yes.
had a heart attack. Must have. I mean, this guy was. It's shocking because the guy was like a monster. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a great story. I mean, I knew about Larry Allen, but I didn't realize how strong he was. That he benched in front of his teammates 700 pounds. He bench pressed 700 pounds. I was like, I didn't realize he was that strong. I knew he was a great offensive lineman, but man, I had no idea how strong this guy was. And very quiet, just the way he passed away. And they had Troy Aikman on, and he was in tears. I mean, all his teammates were in tears.
No,
All
they
his
loved
team,
him. He was an
yeah.
unbelievable player, and he came out of nowhere, right? He played for Sonoma State or something insane. He played for like he was in junior college. I think he jumped, was a youth, was jumping all over the place. And I mean, talk about beating the odds. Yeah,
Yeah,
one of the greatest. Like I think he was a second or third round draft pick. Was one of the
yeah,
greatest
yeah.
players of all time, Hall of Famer. He was a huge human being when he played. Some of these guys in retirement, they get even bigger. I have no idea how big he was, but yeah, just horrible story, horrible.
Yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate, really unfortunate. Um, and other than that, yeah, again, nothing more to talk about in the NFL other than the OTAs. I mean, what else can we talk about?
I don't think there's a whole lot. I mean, it's just the Daniel Jones throwing beautiful bombs too. So the Giants are doing the same marketing ploy. Good. I mean, I give him. Let's see what he can do. This is his last year. The Giants, we'll see what happens. They brought in a lot of players. They've obviously moving on from Barkley. What sort of impact that's going to be? Are they going to be a passing team, or are they just going to play defense with their, that's probably the best way to do it. They have a defense that could be a little dominating. So yeah, not much to really of note besides those few holdouts that could become interesting, especially Ayuk. That's definitely a guy to watch because the Niners have a lot of talent. Uh, I'm not saying they could do without him, but they may be willing to move him.
Didn't we have a teacher in middle school, Ayub, Mrs. Ayub?
No relation to Brandon Ayuk. No,
No,
no. Oh my God! Wow.
I pulled that name out of the hat.
That's a yeah. Anyway, that's not one of my favorite teachers, John.
I know
So
that. That's why I pulled it out of my hat.
were you in our class? We were in the same class. I don't even remember. So
No, not in that class. No, not in that.
uh, okay, there you go. You never please. My God, that is really funny. Where are they now? Where are
Where
they
are
now?
they now?
So yeah, folks, it's a tough one this time of year. So what else I didn't even I just glossed over the NBA, John. I don't know if you have any thoughts. You asked me who's
Yeah,
going to win the hockey. I'm going to ask you. You took the Celtics, right? You
yeah.
already
I think the Celtics will win. I mean, you can't put anything past the Mavericks have actually looked pretty good, but as I said, I think the Celtics are beatable, but I think they're going to pull it out. I think they're going to pull it out.
And it should be good. I think it could be a long
It's
series.
pretty even. No, it's going to be an
Yeah.
even series. It might go I'd say 6 or 7 games, but it's definitely going to be very competitive. When you have Luca, I mean, yeah, all bets are off.
No, he's
Guy's ama-
great. Hey.
guy's amazing. And people don't realize he's only 25 years old. That's the scary part. He's only 25 years old,
Yeah,
and he has.
and tremendous. I mean, the big story there for me is just the whole year. You give credit to Jason Kidd to keep Kyrie Irving focused for
Yeah,
the season, and now he's in the finals. I mean, that
it's
alone
amazing.
is, and maybe, I mean, because Kyrie's a smart dude. He's not some uneducated person. He's just a little wacky, and he's a free spirit. And I think he's just like some of these guys just have to mature, John. So
Yeah,
I think there's more actually fun stuff to talk about in the WNBA. So maybe that's like a reason that we shouldn't take hiatus, because a league that nobody really cares about, suddenly people are caring about, and then the players in the league want to like screw around with their meal ticket. I mean, make this make sense, John.
yeah, and someone asked me, "Oh, why do you think that she's being picked on?" I was like, let's see. What do you want to start off with? Sexual orientation, color? What else do you want? I mean, let's be honest
And
here.
she's a rookie. And she's a
And
rookie.
she's a rookie,
There's a
but
little bit of that. And she
but
does talk a little trash too, John. She definitely is a
yeah,
little bit of a
yeah,
trash
but
talker. But it's a sad commentary
it's
on
jealousy.
society and the league, honestly, if that's a
Yeah,
fact.
yeah,
Aren't we beyond this garbage? But some of the women in this league, it's like you're an absolute nobody. Nothing personal. You could say that about me. I can handle it, but you're a
yeah,
nobody. So just be happy. Caitlin Clark's in the league.
right,
Why is that a problem?
right.
And it's just yeah, it's a slippery slope going down that road. But the WNBA has been dominated, their fan base included. And now, if they want to expand their sport outside of their little bubble, that's the reality. So why wouldn't you
Yeah.
want that, as opposed to go back to where you were in no person's land? So yeah,
You don't want to
John.
make more money. I mean, you don't want to make more money. I mean, the funny thing is, Billie Jean King spoke out about this, and they said, "What are you doing to?" She's trying to promote your sport.
She's a meal
She went,
ticket.
"It's a meal ticket. Why would you do
Yes.
that? You're all going to make more money. Ratings go up, attendance goes up. You're going to get more of the pie. What are you doing? Who cares?"
Oh,
Uh,
please,
uh,
John. You're not talking with the highest intellects in the world here. I mean, let's face
no,
it.
no,
So
no.
that's it's and I the league itself. There's such wimps that they better understand that that is the meal ticket. Not that you have to cater to her. She's got it.
Right.
But if they're cheap shotting her, and there've been a few, they're going to have to come down on the people who are taking shots at her. She's been actually pretty good about it, right? She's been kind of
Yeah,
quiet
yeah.
about it. She
Yes, she
gets it.
has.
But it's funny because what was I think something we never talked about, that what is that, the Ice Cube, the 3-on-3 league, what they call it, on three, what they
Yeah,
offer like 3 million a year or something, or something crazy, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
That would be the funniest thing ever after this season, because her team stinks, so they're not making the playoffs, right? It's a short season. I think there's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
32 games or something. I don't know what it
yeah.
is. And then imagine if after 1 year she goes to go play in this other thing. That would be, because she still probably do well with the endorsements. I mean,
Of
that would
course
be
she is.
classic if she did that. That would really be funny.
I would like a lot of the WNBA players, if anyone listens to this show, to consider this. Why is it that the Liberty actually moved from MSG to Westchester? What is it? White Plains
Well,
somewhere?
they played Barclays too, right? I'm not even sure. They played the
Yeah,
Barclays Center, right?
yeah. But now they're in Westchester. Um, let's consider what's going on here. If you have a Caitlin Clark, maybe you could go back to MSG. If you could get fans to, I mean, come on, they're not thinking. I
I think,
was astonished. I'm saying to myself, who cares what color she is, what her orientation is? She's a player. It's like anything else. She's a player. She's going to promote your league. You're all going to make more money. There's going to be more, like you said, more promotions for everyone. Stupidity.
but I think they played the Liberty at the Barclays Center, John. I think they did play there, didn't they? It was
No,
at the
no,
Barclays
no.
Center.
Yeah, but what's been happening is because their attendance went down and it cost so
Right.
much to rent it out, they moved them to Westchester.
Oh no, right. That was right, right. That's the reality of the situation in this league, and that's why when they
Right.
said like, oh, her as a first round pick, she was making 75 grand a year or something crazy, right? And it's like, yeah, because it's people think just because the NBA allegedly is like there's some sort of relationship, they're on their own when it comes to their revenue, right?
Yeah, of
So
course.
I mean, it's simple. This is how businesses are run. But we really have just people don't even understand how businesses run, right? They just think like, oh, don't I deserve this, so I should get paid this? But it's like,
Right.
well, your business that you're in has to produce enough revenue to cover
Correct.
the expenses, which is your salary. And
Correct.
it's a mathematical equation, John. And as I always joke, life is a mathematical equation. If you think about how many times you should bring math into your life, it's very important. So we don't want to go down the soapbox stuff, but I just figured we definitely had to talk about that because I mean it's actually one of the bigger stories out there, and hopefully that's like now kind of it's over, right? So hopefully that's like the peak, and they can go on, and then she can play, and then like you said, hey, play her tough. You could be physical with her, you could foul her, that's totally allowed, but don't take cheap shots. I mean, come on. And give me a
Yeah.
break, and then
Yeah.
claim that it wasn't a cheap shot. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
it's like, give me a break.
Yeah. The video caught you red-handed.
And the officials called the foul too.
Of
They didn't, and
course.
they should have
Of
they
course.
should have reviewed it, and they should have thrown her out. Maybe not thrown her out of the game, but definitely flagrant. Which they upgraded after the game. Like, what the heck is
Yeah.
that? What
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, I haven't checked the standings. I know her team is still struggling. But yeah, she's in a weird spot. I mean, she just wants to play ball. That's all she wants to do. I don't think she doesn't have any sort of message beyond wanting to play. And I know, so she's confident and talks a little trash herself. What's wrong with that? So anyway, hopefully the women in the league get it. We'll see, John.
Uh, we'll see. We'll see if they wake up.
All right, so where we're heading now, we might almost have to. Well, Scotty Scheffler got his charges were dropped, so we had mentioned golf a few weeks ago for the first time. So I was happy to hear that. That would talk about a ridiculous story. And I guess the Belmont Stakes is this week, John. Is that true? Is because now that we're so desperate for content, we're reaching into horse racing. But poor Mystic Dan didn't win the Preakness, and so the Belmont nobody cares about. So yeah, it's really kind of interesting. So I guess, John, I mean, I know it's a hiatus, but it's always time because there's a lot to talk about and a lot of new players to meet with baseball with Bouk.
So before we get to the Mets and the Yankees, I want to hear your opinion on this. So Major League Baseball has decided to integrate the Negro League statistics and make them part of overall baseball statistics. So now, as we speak, Ty Cobb is no longer the average leader at 367. It is now Josh Gibson at 372.
There you go.
What do you think about this?
What do I think? I mean, it's in the
Yeah.
same. We did talk about this when, hey, speaking of Caitlin Clark, she's back. When they made this big deal about her breaking Pete Maravich's record and trying to equate women's college hoops with men's college hoops and saying it's the same game, which is, of course, it's not. So as ridiculous as that was, as this is completely ridiculous. I mean, Josh Gibson, basically, what, 1% of the population on Earth right now saw play. We know the stories. Was a tremendous player, and it's sad that he wasn't able to play. But we didn't grow up in that era, so what are people like us going to think? So it's a shame. I wish they allowed black players back in those days. I really do, and I think it's a tragedy that the black players couldn't play. I really do. But to like throw this in there and just have other people now in the record books based on the Negro League statistics. I mean, who's to say those statistics are even accurate?
Right. And
So that's my
they
feeling. It's
actually
just ridiculous.
they actually have Josh Gibson having the highest season batting average at 466.
Yeah, right, right. So,
And what I'm a little torn between is because they did play, people don't know this, that they did play against white players when Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig they used to call them barnstormers,
yeah,
where
right,
they
right, yeah.
used to go off season and used to go and play. And, Babe Ruth used to play against Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson and Babe Ruth used to comment that these guys are excellent players.
Sure, of
But like
course.
you said, Paul, who was keeping the statistics? They didn't play as long of a season as Major League Baseball. I don't know if I would have combined this because
Oh,
if
John, this
if
is
you if you, like you said, the accuracy. Who was keeping track of these statistics? I'd
how
like to
many
get a
games?
little bit more information on that before you just say, okay, we want to be inclusive. Everyone comes in.
Right, but how many games did a Negro League season last? Do you have any idea?
It varies. Some of them said 110 games. Some of them said 130 games. Some of them said over 200 games.
Yeah, so there you go. John, whatever. It's 2024. I have no idea. I don't even know what to say. It's just
Well,
I
I
don't.
have another.
It's
I have
it's
an
really it's speechless when it comes to this stuff because it just doesn't. It's just ridiculous, and I don't think anybody really cares. I really don't. I don't know if
Yeah,
anybody cares. I really don't.
yeah. I mean, well, let me ask you. I'll give you another chance at your opinion. Since they include Negro leagues, I mean, it's a totally different concept now.
Right.
But do you include ABA records into the NBA records?
Right. Right. That actually would be better.
It would be
Uh,
better.
you would think that Dr. J is a good. We'll use him as an example, taking his ABA statistics with the Nets, New York Nets, when they played in Nassau Coliseum, right? Oh my
Right.
God. So that would make sense. I guess they haven't done that yet. But yeah, there's not this. It's like this racial harmony thing that people believe like we need to do these sorts of things to have racial harmony. I don't know. We grew up in a era, John, where it was racial harmony. There was no
Right.
issues. I don't remember any issues at
No,
all.
no, not at all.
We didn't grow up in the 50s. I mean,
Right.
people act like the 80s were like the 50s, and it's like, well, you didn't grow
Right.
up in the 80s. So
Yeah,
it's like we had plenty of black friends,
yeah,
and some of our best friends were black.
yeah.
So I never even thought of, and I still to this day never even think about that stuff. I don't care. I wish everybody had that attitude, but obviously people don't. So
I mean,
yeah, it's a feel good thing for man. Was it Rob? Is this Rob Manfred came up with this thing? Oh, this guy is
yeah,
too much.
yeah. And it's funny is some people, if you think about where we went to school, we had all races and cultures. And and listen, we judge people by who they were, not, oh, well, you're Greek, you're Italian, you're this, you're that. We just said a good person is a good person. A jerk is a jerk. It doesn't matter what culture you're in. So I never understand these things. It's
Amen, John. But you and I are a little, we've had this. We were lucky because we did grow up in an area that had different people, and
yeah,
that's important.
true.
So
It's true.
I
It's
think
true.
that's it. And it's a shame that we're dealing with this, but it really is a money grab for a lot of people, and it's always about the money. And
Yeah.
Rob Manfred, I guess it's something that when just like they think it's a feel good thing to do, but all it does is just cheapen their sport, really. Because,
Yeah.
like you said, now, so the all-time season for batting average. So if somebody, so say, what was it? So Ted Williams hit 411. What was the all-time average season? Was it Ty Cobb too, or like Pie Trainer or something? Like
Good question.
it
Good
was over
question. I
400,
think it
right?
was
Ted
four. I
Williams
think
hit.
it was four. If I'm correct,
Oh,
I
Honus
think
Wagner.
it's 424 was
Yeah,
the
Honus
top
Wagner.
average.
Honus Wagner. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is something will not happen even then. But say by some craziness, somebody breaks Honus Wagner and hits 425. Now that's not going to be the record because we have a mythical number that nobody in a million years is even going to come close. No one's
I
even
mean,
going to hit 400, no less 425 or
right. I mean,
470. But
you would have to get
it's
a
just so
hit.
stupid.
Yeah, to be able to do that, you would have to get close to a hit every 2 times up,
Now,
basically.
what about the home run, all-time home run fact? That's not a factor in this. It was purely average. Was because
What? No, no one hit more than Barry Bonds.
nobody hit more than Barry Bonds. But
Yeah.
so was anybody close? What's the highest?
No.
What was it? Josh Gibson is the name we keep bringing up. How
Yeah.
many did he hit?
I
You don't
didn't
know.
see
Okay.
the complete thing. I have to go
Yeah.
through it.
So it's purely
The one that
average.
stuck out, the one that stuck out for me was the season average and the all-time average. I'm like,
Okay.
who's gonna match these? It's impossible.
Uh,
Impossible.
all right, let's get to on
The
the field. You want
New
to
York
start with the
Mets.
Yankees, and then you can introduce me to all these new Met players. It's just that they've won a few games now, so that's good news. I mean, I know they're playing the Nationals, but let's go the
Well,
Yankees, John. Woo.
the Yankees, it's the same old story. Pitching has been great.
Schmidt's hurt.
Unfortunately, Schmidt's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks now with his shoulder. But my man Giel pitched another great game yesterday against Minnesota. I mean, the kid needs to go to the All-Star game. I mean, what a
Sure.
season he's having. He's having a tremendous season. And he threw. I actually watched part of that game, and I said to myself, "Wow, this kid has great stuff." And I'm just worried for him that he throws everything so hard. His fastball, his sliders. Uh, you don't want a kid like that to throw out his arm. I mean, he just goes all out with his. I mean, he's tremendous. And now you got Cole coming back. The I have to say that the Yankees, in the beginning of the year, I was worried that they may not be able to get through the playoffs with their starting pitching, but the way it looks like to me, they have a clear path to the World Series right now because the Astros have lost two more starting pitchers to Tommy John surgery. You got Christian Javier and Urquidy, who was not really pitching this year. So they're gone. So they're basically stuck with Verlander, Valdez. They really don't have much left. So I don't really see any teams at this point that are going to compete with the Yankees in the American League. The Yankees, look, they started off like this in 2022. They almost had like identical records. And then they kind of fell apart, but it was because of their starting pitching. This year they're stacked. I mean, Stroman is doing fine. Rodon is doing fine. Schmidt was. You got Cole coming back. You got Yeel. Um, the only thing that the Yankees need that I think it's going to come back to bite them, and maybe they should start looking at some other teams, is another relief pitcher, another closer. Because Clay Holmes is hot and cold. Some days he looks great. Other days he looks like the Mets relievers, just waiting to blow the game. And you look at Judge, 21 home runs. Soto, 17. Stanton, 15. Stacked. I mean, they look really, really good. Really good.
All
So
right. Well,
oh, by the way, and your
yeah.
man Tonkin, remember Tonkin that was with the Mets twice, and the Yankees picked him up? Guess what? 1.32 ERA with the Yankees. Michael Tonkin.
All right. Well, let's go because I'm running low on power on my computer. I just realized, John. So I'm going to tell the audience that we don't have a lot of time left here.
Okay.
So let's talk about those Mets and
New
the
York
new
Mets.
Mets. What do you think? You
Okay.
got 10 minutes, John.
Okay. Quickly. I I am happy right now with the lineup that they have. Vientos is hitting well. He looks great. His defense has actually been pretty good. Beatty will be coming back soon, but Vientos actually has been hitting solidly. Just the relief pitching, that's a disaster right now. The Mets have actually blown out of 24 save attempts this year, 11 saves, 11 games. 6 of them were after the 8th inning, 10 of them were after the 7th inning. I mean, every game you have to hold your breath at the end of the game. And Garrett almost blew the game yesterday, too. Almost. It's shaky. I mean, Ottavino, I think it's time to release Ottavino. I mean, if you're going to start bringing up the young guys,
Of
start
course.
bringing them up now. There's nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. Even Hauser, they put him in a relief role. Actually, he's doing well as a reliever.
Right. Leave him there.
He's
Leave him
uh,
there.
uh,
What about the new catcher? Who's this guy?
Torrens. Yeah, he'll be gone when Alvarez comes back.
He's
They
getting a
just bought
couple of hits, though, right? He's getting
they
some
bought
hits.
they brought him up. They bought him from the Yankees for 100,000 to just fill in with Nito. But once Alvarez comes back, he's gone. I mean, Narvaez, great, he's gone. Thank God they finally released him. Lopez, as we know, is gone. Um, they've actually benched McNeil for Iglesias, which Iglesias, who was actually a pretty good player uh, with prior teams, actually sat out for last year and is actually playing a pretty good second base and is hitting. He's a little spark plug. I mean, he's a good player, but he's also 34 years old. Let's start bringing up some players here. There's nonsense putting on Diaz on the 15-day disabled list for something called a shoulder impingement.
Right.
How about it's a mental impingement that they're doing here? There's no way that he is hurting like they're saying. It's more mental as far as I'm concerned. But other than that, the Mets are playing a little bit better. Their pitching needs to improve. I mean, we have Peterson, we have McGill. Hopefully, we get Senga back. Our starting pitching is not that bad, but you have to really take out Jose Quintana. I think it's time for him to actually be traded. But other than that, it disturbs me to see our pitching that we used to have on the Mets, mainly Seth Lugo, Trevor Williams, Zach Wheeler, just doing tremendously for other teams. So other than that, that is about it for the New York Mets. And one other thing I wanted to mention, Tucupita Marcano received a lifetime ban for gambling. He was an infielder with the Padres, and several other players ended up getting 1 year bans, again, for gambling. And the rule is in Major League Baseball that you cannot be in the league and expect to be gambling on any sport for that matter. So anyway, as always, thank you to our producer, Zach Zubulake, and to our loyal listeners and viewers. We'll see you in August. Keep the feedback coming. Also, thanks to our community partners, Ronald McDonald House, Kids and Seats, and the Jackie Robinson Foundation. See you in August.